Hello, everyone. Wayne Bailey here. I want to introduce Mario Malabunga from Hoke County Schools High School. Mario is going to present tonight Drone2Maps and how to be able to start using this, especially for those ones going into your second year that wants to teach your students mapping. I'm at a disadvantage. I'm running a Mac. I'm not on the Windows, so I've not been able to go through it. So I'm learning here for the first time with Mario. Dr. Barber, if you hadn't already, go ahead and mute everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and cut my screen off so we can save a little bit of energy. Also, want to introduce TC Freeman. TC is here representing NCDOT Aviation. Welcome, TC. And everybody, yes, sir. And everybody else here tonight. Again, we're excited, and Mario's been working a lot this past week on getting this ready for you. So, Mario, take it away.
Wayne Rossi is also, I see, with us also tonight. Is also one of our board members, our advisory committee members. He's also here on the phone on the site also.
Paul Rossi from 910 Drones. Hey, welcome, Paul. I just now seeing you. Thank you. Okay, Mario. Cheers, sir.
Good evening. I'm Mario, and I'm here to show you how Drone2Map works. And actually, we will start before we do Drone2Map. We'll be starting first with Pix4d in how to get your account. So, I think everybody is everybody able to download the Drone2Map software? Okay, give me a thumbs up. Okay, Michael has one. Okay, Craig. All right. Okay, Arvis. Okay, so a few of us are able to download the Drone2Map and build to. And I assume, I think yesterday or the other day, Dr. Barber sent out a copy of the Drone2Map training where you need to get your username and password for the Esri ArcGIS account. Okay. So let me share my screen first. Okay. All right, so this one first. For those who haven't done this, you will have to go to this link here, okay, for the arcgis.com. So this is a company that enables us to share pictures or maps and other information on this website here. We are lucky to have a free account because software like Drone2Map, Pix4d Mapper, and other products, they are very expensive, and we are very lucky to have software, free software for us. Okay, so here in this step here, you should have all your username and password. You will need this in Drone2Map software. So once you're here, okay, you will have to go to another link, which is the Drone2Map downloads. The website looks like this, okay, and from here, once you download this on a PC, Mac guy too, and it did not work for me, and it won't work for any Apple or MacBook. So this will not work. It's only for PC. So once you download this software, it will be in your computer. Okay, it's not a web-based software. Okay, it's in your local computer. Okay, so here you install it on your PC, and then you select all defaults to install, and it will take some time, and it's a big application. Depending on how fast your computer is, sometimes it will take minutes, and sometimes, hopefully not, but an hour. Okay, and once you have installed the app, okay, you should open it, and it will ask you to sign in with your ArcGIS account. Okay, so you will need your username and password again. So from here, we will get a sample pictures from this link here. Okay, so okay, everybody, were you able to download the pictures here? Please give me a thumbs up. Okay. Okay. All right. So once you download this, save that folder in a spot. Like for example, for me, I usually put it in desktop or in documents so I can easily find the drone images folder that you will have to download. Inside that folder that you will have to download from this link are 36 photos, okay, that came from ESRI. Okay, so again, save it into a spot or a location where you can easily find it. Okay. Another thing that we have to do is to use or download first is the Pix4d Capture. There are other software that you could use for collecting pictures using the drone. Okay. So one of these Pix4d Capture. Kitty Hawk has an has flight automation also or automatic missions that you can get pictures. Other software like Litchi, and there are other apps on the phone that you can download so you can autonomously get pictures. Okay, so I'm going to start. Once you have done everything here, I'm going to start for. Since I'm using Pix4d Capture and it's free and it's easy, I will start with this one first. Okay. Okay. So for Pix4D, okay, I just want to give you a heads up that it will only work for DJI, Parrot, and Unique. Okay. So at the bottom here, I'll show you later. If your drones are not DJI, Parrot, or Unique, okay, it may not work, okay, or it will not work. So let's go to the move. So here, so these are the supported drones. So if you have a Phantom 4 Pro, 3 Pro, okay, these pictures here, okay, these are the only supported drones, okay, by Pix4d Capture. And there's of course DJI. There's a lot of them, and bottom these are the expensive drones, the Matrice 600, and for Parrot brand there are two, the Bebop, Anafi, and one for there's Unique and Parrot Anafi again. Okay. This is me. All right. So, okay, as mentioned by Dr. Barber a while ago, before you use Pix4d Capture, try to use first your drones app. For example, if you're using a DJI, use your DJI app like DJI Go 4, DJI Pilot, whatever software app you're using, because you will need to calibrate your compass, your IMU, set your camera, and everything. All those little details have to be done in your uh, drones software or app. Okay, so once you're done with setting up everything, calibrating everything with your drones app, you can now go to the DJI Pix. I'm sorry, with the Pix4d Capture. Okay, so here, just showing you screenshots here. First thing on the setting, it will ask you like what drone it is. So you pick your drone, okay, and then select also the camera. Other things that are important to is what units are you using. Are you using feet or are you using So at the end also there's a slide here that you will see. This is the auto download images when the mission ends. So you want to slide it on, turn it on, you slide it there, so it will automatically download the picture to your Pix4d cloud or locally to your SD card. So for me, I always, of course, I always save it to my SD card, but there are times also that I put it straight to the cloud so it can easily be processed right away. Now I have a client, okay, they want it right away the picture, I can process it right away. So it goes to the cloud and I have a Pix4d cloud account, and then from there I can process using my other software. Okay, you can change your resolution to on this part here. So when you select a mission, okay, this is how your drone will fly automatically or autonomously. So it can be a polygon, grid, double grid, circular, or a free flight. Okay, it depends upon your goal. Okay, so if you are covering or trying to get a map of an area but it's not a square, you can use a polygon. Use your for again for 2D maps. Another way is using on 2D maps is you can use a grid. So you can see the line here, that is how it will fly. And for 3D models, and you can use a double grid because you would want to get all the angle or most of the angle here. Okay, so you want more pictures, or you want to get all the angles of the area or a building or whatever you're taking a picture of. And in some cases, like towers, single buildings, you can use a circular. And if you are comfortable with flying the drone on, you can fly it manually or you do a free flight. Okay, so it depends upon the case. You plan your mission. Think like how do you want to take the picture of your target. Okay, check the obstructions and everything. Okay, so when you pick that, okay, you can adjust your parameters here. The angle of the camera is very important. Okay, so if see here, if you are in 90 degrees or we call it nadir, your camera is pointing straight down. When it's 0, it's pointing on the horizon. So there are cases that you will have to change this, sometimes 60 degrees. Like for me, whenever I use my drone for thermography, I use 60 degrees. So for mapping, okay, 2D maps, I just use sometimes straight down. Okay, and don't worry, Pix4d Capture will help you with the angle. It will tell you, hey, you have to change the angle because this is the best. Okay, the front overlap and side overlap, normally there are defaults here, but you can change it. The more overlap that you have, the better, because you don't want to miss any picture or a part of that area that you are trying to cover. Okay, also your speed is very important. Okay, depending on the quality that you want, you can do it slower or you want it faster if you have let's say if your battery doesn't have that high capacity. Okay, because your okay your your activity or your task here will also depend, of course, the weather. Never if it's windy, okay, your drone will work harder and your flight time will shorten. Okay, and like for me, when I do thermography, I try to do it slow, and because I'm covering only a small area, like a house or like a roof. Okay, so but if you're covering a big area, you have to consider these two. Once you see also here the lines here, these are the path where your drone, okay, you can adjust this. So whenever like for me, I adjust it depending on the wind direction. Okay, and sometimes I adjust it because I'm trying to maximize the battery of the drone. So sometimes on a different path, I can get more minutes. On a different path, it'll be longer. So you see here on the map here, there's a start and an end. If your drone is in the middle, don't worry, you don't have to walk to the start. What's going to happen here is when you fly your drone, it will go to your starting point, follow the line there, and while flying this path, it's taking pictures. And then it will go to the end. Once go to your end point here, it will go back to you. And most first time drone flyers, autonomous drone flyers, this is very hard to do because you don't know what's going to happen. And it's very scary to let go of your drone fly by itself. When first few times that I was um, gathering data for a farm, it was very like scary for me to let go of the drone. But you will get used to it. You know your drone, you know its capabilities, you know the weather, you know where you're flying, so you trust your drone.
Hey, Mario, can I ask a question while you're here?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what is the, and I know Paul Rossi's on here too, so he does some of the mapping too, but my question is, do you know what would be the typical distance between the photos to make sure that you do a good coverage? Do you know, is there a set space, 10 feet between photos, 20 feet? I assume height has a factor too, because the lower to the ground you are, the more details you're going to get, but also the more you've got to go to cover more area, right? Because you're not going to get as much area. So the higher up, the more your picture covers, but the less details, and the lower you are, the less picture, but more details. So I didn't know if there was a designation of how many, and can you set that up, or does it automatically set it up for you and calculates it based upon what your objectives are? You understand my question?
Yes, sir. I was on another screen. So normally they say it's 40 meters or 130 something feet. Okay. You would want, of course, we are limited not to go higher than 400 feet. So when you do mapping here, you can go low as this, and it depends, sir. Okay. For example, there are buildings there. Like you have to know the buildings here, how high it is, and if there are towers here. Um, so based from my researches, they say 40 meters or 130 feet. But when I do, for example, when I do agricultural mapping, I go up to 300 feet. Because I will need to get more data from the reflectance of the plants, okay, on that height. So I'm not sure if what Paul is using to.
No, I understand what you're saying. The other question I had then do you also need to make sure that the flight is when you're flying a grid, should the height needs to be the same height, it'll be the same height all the way through, right? That's
yes,
why
sir.
you have to identify what the is that right?
Yes, it's set. So if it's set to, let's say, 40 meters, everything here, sir, is going to be 40 meters because you want consistency with the photographs that you're getting or the quality of the picture.
And I would say this is Paul Rossi with 910 Drones. Regarding the overlap, these are going to be adjusted by the flight software itself as far as when the drone takes the pictures. The higher your altitude, the more you can see, the lower the resolution. So you won't have as many photos because of that overlap. But it depends if you're doing vegetation, hard surfaces, buildings, the amount of overlap you want is going to change based on the project, which Mario mentioned in previously. And all of that is done in the software. 65, 75% overlap is kind of what we're seeing in the industry as an average. If you're doing some thermal mapping, you're going to want to have more overlap so that you can actually get a better overall stitch, because it's all about the tie points and how you can tie those images together.
Yes, sir. So again, the software Pix4d Capture or my other software, they
Mark,
suggest.
can I follow up on one follow-up question then? So the question was because Paul said that the 65% overlap, he says all handled by the software. The question is that a setting in the software or does the software automatically handle it? I see you said side overlap 70%, front overlap 80%, angle 90%. And I mean, that's my question. Does the software itself handle it, or do we set it as a preset and then the software handles it?
No, sir. The software has like a default. When you open it, it will be like this, but you can change it. You can manually change the overlap. Okay, and once you change the overlap, okay, it will stay that way when you fly. Per my experience.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Just point this out as well. When it comes to some of these missions, clients have specific requests. So depending on if you are flying and your company is providing the known solution, then you will most likely be inputting your own parameters, your own overlap settings. If you are in a more of a contract freelance drone operator and you're being requested to go do jobs, the majority of the time they are going to advise you to set your camera settings to a specific quality that they are looking for. And they will tell you, we want 80% overlap and 70% overlap. And also as an operator, you can always ask your client, and they may not know because they may not be totally familiar. And then you as the operator are going off of your previous experiences to figure this out. Initially, I would keep it in auto and do some flying with some 2D and 3D models and see what it looks like, and then go back and adjust your settings, do a little more or a little less, and then look at what impact that might have.
Yeah, it's also got a lot to do with what you're actually like. I've done some condo inspections for a homeowners association, and I had to do like 90% overlap when I was doing the facades, just because of how complex they are. So it all depends on what you're doing and what they want and what they need.
Yes, sir.
So my question was, and then I go back to the original question was so therefore it can be automatically done in the software, but you can also set it in the software. That's what I'm saying, right? Is that the correct thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And I agree. It obviously takes experience, practice. I mean, you can't go out there and play a guitar solo without having played the guitar enough to get your fingers calloused. So,
and also important thing that you need to check when you're trying to check your coverage. Like, will one battery be enough to cover like 5 acres of land or 1 acre? You have to check your battery, and you can see it on your later on. Like this area here, it will take like 20 minutes with, okay, and it will tell you also like you might need more battery, because when you know your flight time, when you know your drone, you know how long it will fly, and you know your battery's flight time, you can see like, oh, this is too big. I have to cut my job into like, or cut this area into two parts, because I need this, and I will get another battery. There are drones, or there are flight also like a multi-battery mission where it can go back to you and you can change the battery for put a second battery and then continue the mission too. So you can use a multi-battery, or if we're just planning to just use one battery, you have to take in consideration your flight time. Okay, so
Mario, we have one question. The question was, what is front overlap? The thing said front overlap. What is front overlap? Side overlap? What is that?
when you are taking a picture, sir, let me want to be correct. So when the drone is taking a picture on the flight, um, you the front, when you, I'll explain it. You want the other pictures to uh, have an area, the overlap. So when you're flying forward, you will see, uh, how can it, uh, it's like you want to have extra space in the forward. When the drone is taking a picture, you want that picture to have an enough overlap in the front, okay, so that when another picture goes to the front of it, it will match. Because remember, in mapping, the more key points that you want, or the more interesting features of the pictures, the more easier the software will be able to stitch all the pictures. So overlap to the front, like, and overlap to the side will make stitching of the pictures easier for the software, because it will get more data or key points. So when you'll see here, sir, for example, here in this picture here, once you start flying, you will see some icons here, like a picture icon. So it's telling you that, hey, on this spot, on this path here, the drone is taking pictures at this point here. So you can have, it depends on your area. If it's a bigger area, definitely you will have more pictures taken. If it's a double grid, this will be a lot. Okay, so when you're flying a double grid mission, it takes more battery and more flight time. And you will see here on Pix4d Capture that the information is here, like the drone, what camera, battery left, and all this information here. You will also see on live where the drone is at. So of course, as part 107, you want to see where your drone is flying. Like, we're maintaining visual line of sight. Okay, and if there's a problem, you can pause it, and you can bring back the drone, and you can continue the mission. And so if it stop here, it will go to this point here and then continue until it goes to the end, and then we'll go back to you. So if you see here, sir, this part here, this is where the drone took off. This is a takeoff. Okay, the takeoff in the landing area. It went here to the start point. and then flying the path, and then going to the end, and then back here. Okay. So once you get the pictures, sometimes most of the time, like for me, I usually check the pictures right away. I want to see like, oh, this is good. Oh, I have to do it again. And then once everything's good, of course, it's saved in your SD card, or you can upload it to the cloud. If you have a Wi-Fi in this area here, you can upload it to the cloud. And then from there, you can process it. Okay, so when you have gotten all the pictures now that you want, okay, it will be processed in a software or a program like Drone2Maps or Pix4d Mapper or other programs. Okay, so any question on Pix4d Capture? Okay, everybody good? Okay, so going back here again, when you're flying, okay, so you see here, this is the polygon, okay, the polygon mission. So some flights needs to be in a different, okay, not a perfect square or rectangle. Okay, can be a grid. Okay, your mission can be a double grid, or you can do circular, like if you are taking pictures of towers, power lines, or structures like single that you need to get all the sides. Okay, and if you are comfortable, do a free flight here, and or you can do multiple battery flights or mission. Okay, so any question here?
Just a question, just a pause, and while we're changing from one to the next. Does anybody have any questions related to the Pix4d Capture? There are other capture software out there that you could use. The key really is that whatever you use is going to put those images in a folder. And that's where we're going to the next thing when we go to the, you need these images that was captured using that type of application so that it can then be, what's it called, extrapolated into some type of something by the next software. Right, Mario?
Yes, sir. So we're just using Pix4d Capture just to get the pictures of the area that we want to map.
But you could use the DJI app to do that and capture photos that way. You could use, there are other software applications that you could use to do that. The question is which one is best and which one works the best. That's always questionable. In our case, though, we would prefer you use Pix4d Capture because we're using a modified Pix4d in Drone2Map. And therefore, that should be the right platform that it would accept in the better platform. Correct, Mario?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can use that.
And let me say
again, there are other apps there that can do autonomous flights. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I played around with taking some images, and I didn't do a running a pattern. I just took some pictures, and when I came back and I got Drone2Map running, I went in and put the information in, and of course, it really was a strange layout when it was done because there was no consistency in height or space or overlap. So it really struggled to do something with my pictures, but because I didn't use the an autonomous flight software that made it make sense anyway. So now I just want to make sure everybody understood that there are other options. In our case, for the high schools, we are going to be recommending that you use the Pix4d Capture, and that's specifically because we are using the Drone2Map, and we do want you to use the Drone2Map application, even though there are others. And the reason for that is because of consistency. If someone was, first of all, it's $1,500 per person software that's free that Esri gives us as K-12. Second of all is that there needs to be some consistency. What if someone was to leave Mario's program in Hoke County and go over to Harnett County where Michael Andrews is at? There needs to be some consistency, you know what I mean, when you leave one school to the next school, and there needs to be some consistency. So we prefer you run the same applications. If we're not if you're not having to pay for the applications, then there's no reason why we can't require you to do that. If you pay for the applications and we don't pay for it, then we give you more flexibility. But in this case, it's like Kitty Hawk. We require you to use Kitty Hawk because we're paying for it. We're going to require you to use Map4d Capture and Drone2Map application for the mapping. That's what we're going to require you to do. So just let you know that. Questions about that?
Also, I like Paul has shared, I usually go to the Pix4d resources. Like for example, the question about the overlap. I'm gonna share this. Okay. So you see here, if you go to Pix4d, there are a lot of documentation if you wanna know about overlaps. Here's the overlap. Okay, so generally 75 to 60. And then if you are mapping vegetations or field, you can do 85 front, 70 side. Okay, so these are the suggestions based from Pix4d and probably from the experience of other drone operators here. So here's what you see here. When you do an 80% okay, overlap, this is what it will look like. So picture here in the red, okay, and between the two images, there's greater than 80% for front overlap. So these resources here, if I have question, because of course I'm not from Pix4d, I'm not the one who created the software. They are the ones who are the experts on this, and they suggest things like this, especially on settings, on the quality of the pictures, and other stuff. Okay. So right now, okay, so I'm checking the chat here. All right.
Go ahead, Mario. I'm taking care of your chat. Go ahead, Mario.
All right, sir. So regarding the installation of the software, I had a problem with our IT in the school because they don't allow us to install any software, okay, even if it's educational, unless you have to go through their process. Like me, if I need to install Drone2Map on the local desktop in my classroom, I have to fill out this form. They would give me a work ticket, and I have to wait. And then after a few weeks or sometimes days, if you're lucky, the software will be installed on your desktop. Okay, so it's just one thing that I'm trying to talk to the IT or to my director here about the installation, because there are lots of things that as a drone class, there's a lot of software that we need to install, like the simulators. DJI is being blocked in our system too. So when I use my DJI simulator, I have to ask the IT department to allow the DJI website to pass through their firewalls, stuff like that. Okay.
Mario, you do need to get your before the school year starts. If you identify all the software you want and load it onto one computer and tell your IT person this is the image that you need, then they can build the image for you. And then all the computers would have that software installed when they re-image them all. Because they just re-image them all to one common thing. And so therefore you could go ahead and have your software installed on there. You know, you still need to have access, so you'd have to have a username and password to get into it. But you could go ahead and have the software installed in one image. That's all your software. That's what I would do. Just put it on one computer, all the software you think you're going to need, and then tell your IT people that you need images. This is the image you need built on your computer at the beginning of each year. And then over the summer, when they build it, they'll build all your computers with that image. And so you'll already have the software installed and you don't have to worry about downloading. That way there's no problem with, they can still lock it down and you won't have to install it because it's already installed. You see, because they will do it automatically as part of the re-imaging process.
Yes,
but you
sir,
just
you're
got to make
correct,
sure
sir.
you talk to your IT people up front.
Yeah, that's correct, sir. So in my class, I have an image of the desktops, and so one desktop, they just image it or clone it. It will be the same as the other desktop. And in regards to that, our school also very strict in downloading the apps on the iPads. Okay, so I use iPads and iPhones for the drones, and before I can just install the apps that I need. But now the IT department in my county is controlling every app, so I cannot install it anymore. So once you have your own like um, an iPad with all the apps that you want, or the apps that you requested, okay, they can easily copy the settings for that iPad to the other iPad. So it's easier in that way too, because they have their own, like they call it remote management for the iPads or the DRMs.
Mario, do you know how much room maps, Drone2Maps takes up?
Drone2Maps, sir. Let me check, sir. It's
Should be able to just
1.8 gig.
1.8 gig. Thank you.
Mhm. So that is just the application, okay? And of course, if you put more pictures, that's where it will make things slow. Like there are already, like for me, like hundreds of, or I reached before thousands of pictures. It took me like a day to process all those pictures. And I do have like a fairly fast laptop here, but it still took me a day to process all the pictures in one of my software.
How many pictures was it?
I think it's about 800 pictures, sir.
Okay.
800 pictures. So, and the quality, of course, I was setting the quality of the pictures to a higher resolution because I would like to get a really good map. Okay, so for those people, I'm not sure if all of us have a background in mapping or photogrammetry or stuff like that. But I'm just here to give you a basic concepts about mapping. Okay, and as Dr. Barnes said to me before, mapping is very, very crucial. If we know how to map properly, if we know how to map safely, okay, your skill set will become wider. You can map for agriculture, okay, you can map for cities, for government, for you can use maps for first responders. Okay, and there are a lot of like multiple opportunities for you if you know how to map. Okay, you can also do again thermography, search and rescue, mapping. Okay, so basically mapping and drones, you will have to learn how to do autonomous flying. Okay, I know it's a skill to manually fly, but big areas that you have to cover, you have to trust the program or the software of your drone to do its job because it's computer based and it can fly, let's say, more consistently than a human person flying it. Okay? So, photo. Okay, so for those of you who don't know photogrammetry, okay, it's just basically the use of photographies or photos in surveying and map. You will hear that word in other uh, folks or other drone flyers. Okay, and it can be used to measure the distances between objects, and it can utilize the images to create 3D renderings. So you know that photo is just 2D, but we can use that also to do 3D stuff. Okay. Um, so one one of the things that you will see later on in Drone2Map is the maps. Okay. So you might ask, what is orthomosaic? What is DSM? What is uh, control points? What is those things? So as I go through the Drone2Map, I will touch a little bit of that. I will not touch extensively all the features and all the buttons there because it will probably take days to do that. Okay, so I'm going to share you now my screen on Drone2Map. So, okay, is everybody okay now with if I go jump to Drone2Map?
Yes,
No
good.
questions in the chat, Mario. So I would say we're at almost at the top of the hour. So we've got an hour left in the presentation.
All right. So when you open Drone2Map again, it will ask you once only to log into your credentials, and then this is what you will see. Okay. So you see here that there are templates here. 2D Rapid is if you're trying to make a map like really quick, okay? But again, the resolution is low. Okay, there's a full 2D, there's a 3D mapping and other stuff here. So I'm going to do, for the sake of time, we'll do a 2D Rapid. So here, you will see the output will be like this. Okay, for full, you can do multispectral. If your drone has a multispectral camera, this is what you will need to use. So this is for like vegetation, for mapping agriculture. You will need a multispectral camera. Okay, if you want to really get it right. Okay, of course, 3D mapping is the uh, the 3D, okay, the whole of a building of or something. So let's go back to 2D Rapid, and then you will click. Okay, from here, just click next. Okay, so on this again, on this demonstration, I don't want you guys to be overwhelmed, and I don't want our students to be overwhelmed too. We can go on to the more advanced topics, but right now, once we have the kids do this, the basics, it will be easier for us to move on to the more advanced features of the software. So again, go back here. I'm going to start with the template, which is a 2D Rapid, a fast one, and then a fast processing. Okay, and I click next. here I give a name. For example, let's just use demo. Come on. Okay, so of course you give your project name, and here you don't have to change it unless you want to change it. This is where your project will be stored, okay, on this URL here. So the next thing that you gotta do is you have to add your images. Like for me, as I've told you, I put my images in a folder, downloaded from the ESRI, okay, and the folder is drone images. So if I open here, I have 36 pictures here, JPEGs. So these pictures here, they are not just pictures here, plain pictures. If you see here, there's a TIFF and JPEG files that can be taken here. So pictures here, or those data that are taken by the drones, are not just basically pictures. They also have data like, or information like the coordinates, the time, all those little information are embedded in those pictures. And that's why don't wonder if you take a picture using your phone, okay, Apple or the other companies there know where you are, okay, and other stuff. So again, information are embedded on those pictures. So if you have like 30 pictures here or more, the best way for you to put all the pictures here, you just click one and then hit Control A and it will select everything. You don't want to pick everything or hit Control one at a time. It will take forever. So pick one here and Control A and click OK. So see here, all the, okay, this picture here shows you that this picture here is in this coordinates here, and altitude, and also the date taken and the time. Okay. Now you will need to create. Okay, click the create. So right now here on my clock here is 8:01. So all right. So it's okay. So all the pictures have been loaded now here. So right on the right side here, this is how you manage the ones that you want. Do you want an orthomosaic, DSMR, a terrain model? You put a click here. If you don't want it, uncheck it so that the program will not process or will not create that kind of map. But for a 2D map, these are the general kinds of map that we have: orthomosaic, DSM, or DTM. Okay, so once it's here, you will see also the process here. There's an initial stage. What products are you want to make? So for us here, we're doing a 2D products, and then there's also processing. You are not started yet. You have to click the start button here. Let me make my mouse bigger.
Hey, Mario, one thing I wanted to point out that I discovered that this thing does also, those circles, the dots shows you the route that you took and the pictures that was taken.
Yes, sir. So on
So
the
you
left
would
side
know
here,
whether or not you left, if you left out some of your images, because like Craig had left half his images out one time. I said, Craig, you haven't loaded all your images in. It's only got half the pictures. So, I mean, the point is, this is also a good map to see because you know what you did and all the images that were in there, and you feel pretty good about it, right?
yes, sir. So I'll explain it later. It's on the left side here. So from here, you have to click here on the home, the start. Okay, so it will start the processing. So in this group here, it will start the process. So checking your, of course, camera model and everything. On the right side here, you will see it's doing the initial process here. Okay, it has the yellow background here, and then you will see your process here. Depending on your how fast your computer is, it can be like clock mine for 5 minutes. It was able to do a 2D map or 5 minutes on this one. Okay. So while it's being processed here, I would like you guys to see on the left part here. Okay. So the left part here, it will tell you all the contents of your map. Okay. So you see the orange line here. This is your flight line. So I think start here, and then that's your flight line. If you don't want to see that, okay, just put uncheck here, right? But if you want to see where your flight path here, put a check. Now the images here, all the, as Dr. Barber said, these blue dots here, these are the points where the drone has taken a picture of that area here. So picture here and so on. You should have 36 of that, okay? Based from the folder. So if you don't want to see that, if it's bothering you, this one, you can just uncheck that and it will be gone. The flight lines, it will be gone too. Okay. So let's put it back again. Nature, okay. The the control here, the ground control point, this is more of an advanced. Okay. So when you put or add ground control points, this is like this is putting some markers on the okay, I'll show you there. It's putting like markers in an area here. They suggest at least five points area that you want to map, and then that points, those are your references. So when you know this point here in the middle of the circle here, it's on this x coordinate, y coordinate, or this right, the picture will like correct itself, okay, in the processing. Okay, it will automatically and it will be more. Your map will be more accurate. Okay, there are systems there like the RTK, okay, DJI RTK, and there are devices that you need to use to know the exact GPS location of that point. So again, for ground control point, if you put here a reference, let's say reference number 1, you place a marker, okay, a physical marker here. All right, so again, going back, so ground control point is just making a reference here and making sure that those reference match with your picture on an exact coordinate, and that makes your map really accurate, like plus or minus 2 centimeters. Okay, that's how accurate it is. 2 centimeters. That's your margin of error there. Okay, so right now you see here it's done. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you see here, this is the map that is created on this one here. Again, on the left here, I don't want to see the blue dots. Take it off. I don't want to see the flight lines. Okay, that's it. Okay, so now I have okay, a good view of this one here. So, or I'm going to or some mosaic. So I'm going to uncheck the kind of product. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck the digital elevation. Okay. Okay. For the, so orthomosaic guys, they are actually just an accurate representation of an area created out of many photos that have been stitched together and geometrically corrected. I repeat, geometrically corrected. So let me start first. Okay, so okay, so you see here this picture here. Okay, you will see a normal aerial photo will look like this. So it depends on the flight, direction, the angle of the camera, the gimbal, the lens, all those stuff here. You will see things like this, the walls, like that. Okay, but when it's corrected for mapping, we call it an ortho rectified or an ortho photo. It's flat. Okay, it's like really straight down. So that is already being corrected. Okay, so that is the just the basic um, ortho mosaic map. Okay, one thing that you would also want to know about the DEM or digital elevation. Okay, so the DEM, okay, if you see this picture here, okay, so the picture here, the digital elevation is just a specialized database that represents the relief or how high or low the surface between points of known elevation. So you see here, this is one of the things that Drone2Map can do. Okay, it can visualize the contours in elevation. Okay, and two types here are the first one is called the digital surface model. As from the word here, surface. Okay, so it includes tree canopies and buildings on the picture here. Now, the other thing, other DEM is what you call an elevation model. So every pixel of that picture, okay, has the data on how high or low in reference to the sea level. Okay, so it can be meters or sometimes it can be feet. So this is what you call the digital elevation model. Now, going back here to Drone2Map here, if I uncheck ortho mosaic here and I click the digital surface model, yeah, okay, this is how it will look like. Okay, so here, this is the digital terrain model and digital surface model. Okay, so this is more of an advanced stuff, but okay, let's go back to orthomosaic. Now we have the picture here. Okay, so from here, the things that would be nice for you guys to know is if I zoom out here, this looks like just a blob here. Okay, but my drone automatically took pictures in and stitch and it looked like this. So is there if there's a question like my first is like, I don't want the stuff here, I just want the house here. So what you can do from here is if you see the draw here, draw, you can click, let's say just want this house here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and right? Double click. So when you double click the last part here, okay, you have that area that you want, hopefully that you just want, and then you can clip. So once you clip it, yes, we'll process a little bit. There, you have it now there. Okay. So I would like to know the other stuff here too. If I would want to compare it to what map is already there. So there's a thing called here called a base map. So the base map here, if I want to see like the other buildings in that area, let's say I click this image here, that will be my base map now. And now you see where it is. Okay. If I don't need much detail, I just need the streets. Like let's say This one, the streets here. This is what we'll have. Okay. And one last thing, if you are, let's say, I want to know the terrain on this area here. Okay, will be like that. Okay, so there are like things that you can do here, like in the base map. So if you want to go back, here, you can just clear. Okay, and it will go back to your original. Okay, so here it's a 2D. If I go to 3D map here, I don't have because I did not ask Drone2Map to process it. So here, when you click this part here, you do a measure of point cloud. Okay. These are the products for 3D. See, I don't have it right now. So here, you see here, number 2 and number 3 is being, okay, let's say activated. You can now start. Okay, so it's 8:15. Let's see. So point cloud, okay. While we're here, just to give you what's a point cloud here. Point cloud is a point in a cloud in space. So every point, okay, here, every day, here, there, okay, it has some information on the elevation and the coordinates, and it can those points here, like if you have a box, you have a marker, you put a dot around the exterior of the box, then you will create a mesh. Okay, with that dots there, lots of dots, okay, it can give information about the shape of a building, a tower, a car, or anything that's taken by the drone. Okay, so those information you can create a 3D product. Mhm. So there. So at this point here, at this point, try to give a little bit break. Any questions on the basic?
Nothing in the chat, Mario.
Okay. So while it is waiting here, I'm gonna go back to 50%. I'm trying to go back to the ground control point here on the left side here, the ground control point, to give you a clear idea on how it works. Okay, so the ground control point. So basically here you have to make some visual pictures that you can see. You can see when the drone takes pictures. So you're taking like say 36. You got 36 pictures. You want to make sure that one of those pictures has these markings here to know exactly like this. You make a paint on the road, or you can do a board like this with the black and white, so you can see exactly the center. And some people just use cones. So once you've making that mark, like this guy here, okay, you will need a device like an RTK GPS receiver and a base station, okay, to get exactly that point. Okay, you want to get the coordinate of that point. Once you've gotten those points, you have to put it in a CSV file or let's say an Excel sheet, okay, with a proper format. So at this point here, there's a proper format for that. Okay. So for example, you're mapping this area here. You would want to have again at least 5 GCP or 5 ground control points. Okay. The more, the better. But it's a task to do that. okay? Because you have to go to all these points here. What if this big area here? And you want to make sure that when you put those ground control points or your reference points, make sure that there's no shadow and no obstruction on these points here. So this one here, okay? So there are drones that can do automatic, or we call it a real-time kinematics, getting the GPS correction automatically. DJI has it, but it's very, very expensive. Okay, but the process that I've shown you a while ago, this is what you call the post-processing kinematic. Like you mark again. Later on, you will find in the set of pictures where is that reference number one, and then you will upload it in your, okay, when you will upload it here. Okay, so when you do those things here, it makes your map very accurate. Again, it can be from plus or minus 2 cm. So while waiting, okay, another one tip that, or one comment about the software, it will ask you to update. Okay, when you first download and install the Drones2Map, okay, you can use it. But once you updated it, based from my experience, it had problems downloading or opening my previous project. So I have to restart everything with the updated software. So basically, like for my experience, okay, the new updated Drone2Map didn't work for my maps created in the first version. Okay. So right now, you see I'm in the post-processing now. Okay, so should be good now. So, okay. So with when you point your mouse and click on one point of the picture here, there will be lots of information that you will find. Okay? Let me look for.
Mario, while that's uploading, just
Yes, sir.
to make sure that folks understand is that this is survey grade quality. However, we're not in the surveying business. It takes a license to do surveying. So we are strictly just mapping. And this should not be used if you're buying and selling land, because you need a surveyor to sign off on it or put their stamp on it that if you want something surveyed. So just to make sure we understand is that you can't go out and start doing a survey business based on using drones to maps. You still got to get that certificate or that certification to be able to do that.
Yes. Okay, so let me uncheck the flight lines images. Okay, so from here, if I get closer to this house now, you see, I can at least see the other stuff here on 3D. I click on this icon. Okay, so I can see the area here. Okay, so this is the 3D. Okay, the 3D map. Okay, then if you get there, so this is the product now, the 3D map that you want. In some cases, like if you're just trying to get, let's say, the house, okay, this house here. If you're just trying to get the 3D information of this house, you can get it and then you can convert it into an STL file, which you can use for your 3D printers. So the information that you can get from here, okay, can be converted into an STL file and make some 3D models if you want. Okay, so here, all right. So that is the 3D, and then back to 2D. Okay. So you see this one here. When I uncheck this part here, this is the point cloud. So this point cloud here are the ones giving information to the software how to make the 3D product of the map. Okay. So let me uncheck this first. So just to give you something. If I click point here, there, in the ortho mosaic, okay, tells me information about every pixel here. Okay, we go to, let's say, digital surface. Okay. Okay. Sure. So here under digital terminal, you can see like information here, other information, like the pixel, how high, how low, and you also know the coordinates. Okay. So once you're done with everything here, I'll put it back here. Okay. What do we do now? Okay. So let's say I want it here, and I wanted to do, let's say, a straight line. Okay. Base map. Okay. So once you're done with this, you will have to print it out. Okay. So if you want to print it out, you can click the share here and then export. So when you export this, okay, you can change all the parameters that you want here. But basically, you want to export it and then click this one here. And this, okay, I already made one. So that's it. And if you want to see what you have, it's a PDF file. It will look like this. So if you're not happy, I don't want a night base map, I'll just put just an image here. And then click export again. Say in the middle here. Click export. And it will automatically be saved in your folder. Okay, so let's review it. Looks like this. And that is your like final product. Okay, so
And you can save that project. You can save that project, Mario. And if you have more houses being built in that area, you can go back and just say refly this area. You don't have to go back and do it. And that way you get the exactness each time. So you can see what's being built or any new projects being done, correct?
Yes, sir. So you like if a general contractor or an owner would like to do like a progress of a construction project, you can do that. Like from the beginning, this working, you can do that, sir.
So let's go back to the question for us though is also remember as a come on, Pierce, so I actually somebody's being seen. Just remember that as a 107 certified pilot, you have the freedom to fly, anywhere in the area you want to fly, as long as you don't violate over prisons, over top people, over top of cars. If you're in an empty field and you're filming, you're taking photos of a construction site, you're not breaking any laws whatsoever. You have the right to do that. It's not a problem. You can take and publish those pictures. That is not a violation. It's free air. They can't do anything about that. If you take a picture of a person now, it becomes an issue unless it's a crowd, right? If you take a picture of a person in a crowd and a person individually and you don't have their permission, that's against the law. And they could actually sue you for $5,000 by legislation. But if you take a picture of a crowd, then it doesn't matter if they can pick somebody out in the crowd. That doesn't mean you're not actually picking that person out. The same be true of filming just filming. You don't have to have permission to film properties, as far as I'm aware of. Do you, Wayne? I mean, as long as you have to have permission to land and take off on people's properties, but you don't have to have permission to record their house. If you want to picture the house, you can. Now, if you're violating peeping Tom laws, that's a different story, right? It's the privacy. But you have the right to record things. And hey, airplanes fly over and they take pictures all the time. I mean, people, they can do what they want to do. It's not a violation. Isn't that correct, Wayne?
Yes, sir. You just want to be sensitive to flying around someone's house. And usually if I'm doing something real estate wise, I'm knocking on doors saying, hey, just let you know I'm here taking pictures of next door. If you would like a photo, I'd be glad to make a photo of your house and give it to you, complimentary, but I'm just next door taking some photos. And if you have any questions, here's my card.
But I was specifically talking because the reason why I brought the issue up was because Mario said, that some people may want to take pictures of a subdivision and see as it develops. Well, you can do that, and there's not a violation. You don't even have to have permission to do that because you can clearly do that. If you're interested in seeing over a period of time, now what would be nice if you did that and then took that to the realtor, actually took some of those photos to the, because you can do time lapse, that's kind of neat too. You put them together, make a time lapse thing. It kind of looks neat. And they can see how the progress, how it progressed along. And some of these construction companies like having that imagery so they can actually show their next client. Look, here's a project that we built over a course of 6 months to a year, and shows you it being built. And you took pictures you're obviously not going to take pictures every day, but
but it could be weekly or every other week.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Barber,
you can do it without permission.
Right. Dr. Barber, what is your recommendation or suggestions on these teachers? What kind of projects would you say that they could be able to do, offer their students to be able to do and to understand this? I mean, it's just really wide open. If they want to go map the school, map the ball field, if they want to do a special project in the community, marshlands, helping doing any studies with any environmentalists, it's just really unlimited on what they can do for a project to be able to show that they're able to map, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we make sure that, again, safety is number one. So as long as we remember we can't fly over top of people, that's the concern you have when you map a school. If you did any type of mapping of the school building itself, you would need to do it during off hours, like a weekend or something when nobody was there. Because there's inevitably, when you set that button to start recording, somebody's going to walk out of that building. You know what I mean? Right when you're recording and right over top of them, and then you violated the law. So we don't want that to happen. So it needs to be, if you're going to record a building. Now, if you're going to record a ball field, you do that during the school day, there's a good chance nobody's going to be on that ball field until after school. You know what I'm saying? You can also go, there's also probably in your community, if there's like is in my community, there's probably dilapidated buildings. Buildings where nobody lives, that nobody works, there, factories that have closed down, and there's no one there. Okay, I would try to call the phone number on the building, the person, and tell them that you're interested in doing some work, and see if they're allowing you to get on their property to take off and land. If they say no, you can still do it, just don't take off and land from their property. You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing that says you can't fly over their property and do a mapping project if you wanted to. But if it lands on their property, if you have a hard landing, now you have to trespass to go get it. So it's always best if you have permission before you do it. Yes, you don't have to. You understand? You don't have to get your neighbor's permission to fly over their house and take pictures of their house. You don't have to have permission. There's no violation at all. But you can have a pissed off neighbor. You might find your trash can knocked over when you come outside or something, or a dead cat in there or whatever. So the point is, you need to do things the right way, because there's plenty of opportunities for you to film things with people that don't mind you filming things, right? So that's what I would say. Ball fields can be done. You could do a variety of things. I think the school are not going to have a problem with you. And if you film it during the day, as long as you did your filming where the drone never physically went beyond the building, you know what I'm talking about? So you set your grid up so the grid actually just does the building, not the property around it, and you just get the building itself. Then you're going to make sure you're protecting anybody that may walk out the building. If they got covers over top of the building, walkways, you can do that. Mario's got no choice. If he films his goes to one building out in the yard, doesn't it, Mario? I mean, you're out in the yard, so you got to.
A field house.
Yeah, field house would be good, but again, a lot of times field houses are used for PE, and PE people are coming and going. Just remember, the only concern I wanted to make sure you understood that remember that when you're doing autonomous flight, that does not limit you, it does not eliminate you from meeting the FAA requirements as a 107 pilot. And that means you cannot fly over people, right? You cannot fly over people. You cannot fly over moving vehicles. You cannot fly near a athletic field when a game is in progress. Now, people say, well, can I film my ball games? No, you can't. By the way, North Carolina High School Athletics passed a law that said no drones are allowed. So,
Actually, yes, sir.
You can do it anyway.
In terms of that, some of the coaches in our school has asked me to film a football game. I said no. There's the rule that you cannot do that on the North Carolina High School Association, and I've read those things. You can't.
You cannot. That's right. They won't let you. Originally, they let people do it, and then they got concerned about safety because you can't ensure that the quality of the pilot. See, that's the problem. It's not Mario flying, doing the drones. They wouldn't have a problem with that, but you can't just let Mario do it. The problem is you're going to have somebody else doing it. They don't know how to do it, and then they're going to think of the potential danger. So North Carolina High School Athletics just ruled in the case of problems, we're not going to do it. So I'm saying, but could you map a football stadium? That's a great place to do, because a lot of times football stadiums stay empty all week long until Friday night or Thursday night. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times they practice on practice fields. So a football stadium is a great place to do it. Go to your local college or community college that has athletic fields. They're not used during the daytime. And you can take a field trip, talk to them about it. They're probably glad to let you come and do a drone thing on their campus, especially if they have a drone program. You have to have some drone programs on their campus too. So
if they got a new building on campus, they may want you to come in and film it.
Yeah, and again, you'll give them the footage of it that they can use for their PR purposes. And if you being a 107 pilot, you can do that. Remember also, and I'm just going to throw this in there. Remember also that if you have your students, if your students are amateurs and they videotape something, they do some type of drone footage, and then they post it on a website, on a Facebook channel. I saw this the other day, which is interesting. If they post it on their own channel, on their YouTube channel, but YouTube has YouTube actually gets paid for you posting on there, right? Because they have advertisers on there. Technically speaking, that's a violation of the FAA requirements. It makes you a professional pilot because your photos are being used for revenue purposes. But the FAA said it's kind of fuzzy. Technically speaking, you're guilty, but you didn't actually make any money. somebody made money, but you didn't make any money and you didn't do it intention. So I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it unless FA, but you saw there was a $181,000 fine to one guy for drone violations. So the key is with mapping. We'll go back to mapping because that's what we're here to talk about. The key for mapping is just remember if you're going to set up the original question that Wayne had asked about what type of project should they be doing, it really doesn't matter to us what type of project. I think what matters is that we need to specify we're going to have a certification. Lapson will have a certification for Esri Drone2Map. And what it will probably say is something that you have to create a 2D, 3D, and the things that you'll have to do. How many photos you'll have to have taken in that group. You know what I'm talking about? That's probably the criteria for the certification. It will not be you're going to fly a football field, or because that could vary from site to site to site what your availability is. So I don't think we really care what it is you fly as long as you fly it and map it. Don't you think so, Wayne?
Yes, sir. They've got to actually fly it. They can't just have stock photos they use. They've got to actually fly it and set the parameters up, the forward and side overlaps to make sure there's no holes in their photos. And I would suggest if you're going to do that whatever you pick it for all your students. So if you're going to be doing a mapping class and you're going to pick the ball field, my suggestion is everybody flies the ball field. Don't make it hard or easier on one student or the other. Make sure it's whatever it is, it's fair. And my suggestion is they map the whole thing. Now, next semester, another class, you can go and change locations. But for testing purposes or to be able to measure without their mapping, my suggestion is they map the same thing.
Hey,
that's
David,
just a fairness.
I have a question. Mario, he said a lot of land survey terms, control point, RTK, GPS, cooking points, that type of thing. Is there going to be a unit that has some fundamental land surveying vocabulary and terminology in the Drone Technology 2 course?
At this point in time, I would say no. I mean, at this point in time, but we're still in the piloting stage, right? So after we run it and we see that if it is, we'll define what those are, right? I mean, if those are the terms that we need to know to be able to do mapping properly, that the student would know when they went in the field, then we'll want to make sure we include that, right? That goes back to part of what should we be covering in our Esri Drone2Map certification that Lapson does. What are the key things that need? What is the body of knowledge? That's what I'm saying. You understand? Any certification has these body of knowledge. So we need to develop the body of knowledge for Esri Drone2Map, Lapson Esri Drone2Map certification. That's what we need to do. And then based upon the body of knowledge is what we actually require to be taught. And then you develop the curriculum to teach those things. You understand? It's got to be, what is your objective first? What do they need to know? And then you back into how you teach it. But it's first what they need to know. Then how you back in. You don't do what you teach, and then based on what you teach, what do I need to know? It's what you need to know, and then you decide how to teach it. You understand what I'm saying?
So Mario, to be able to answer his question is that how long a class, if we were face to face, what would it take to be able to do a good rounded class? 1 day, 2 days, to be able to cover ground points and even do a demo, to be able to do some flying? Are you thinking a couple of days, 1 day, 2 days in class?
Yeah, for the specific topic, just like ground control points or the GCP, it will take probably just a day, okay, for just that thing. But again, one limitation, the thing that will limit us to teach this is the equipment, because you need to buy RTK, a GPS receiver.
If you're doing centimeter
Yeah,
mapping.
centimeter.
And I don't know, Dr. Barber, that it's important that we do centimeter mapping, and because those GPS units to be able to put in to measure, they could be several thousand up to $5,000 just for that stick to be able to capture the GPS at that ground control point. Correct, Mario?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think the cheapest is like $3,000, and it go up to $20,000 just
So,
for
so
that.
Wayne, what we need to do is we need to talk to our people on our advisory board, I mean our committee, and see what see if any of the people that are doing mapping, what their recommendations is for our, again, we're trying to say that the student knows basic mapping, okay? The very basic entry level mapping. They're not going to be experts at it, but they know how to do mapping. So if a company hired them to do a drone operator and they wanted them to do mapping, they could say they would know enough to get started. You know, they're not trying to go out and say, I'm an expert drone mapper. They've been doing mapping for, you know, I'm not a surveyor. I'm not whatever. Right. We're not trying to say that. We're trying to say that they have a basic knowledge of mapping. And so my question would be is, are those considered part of basic drone mapping, or are they things that are additional that you go, that's at a next step? You know what I mean? Like an intermediate or advanced level. You see my point? Do you see what I'm saying, Mario?
Yeah, I would say if you are talking ground control points and RTK, right there you've crossed the line into land surveying, setting control points on a ground that you know exactly where they are, and you would certify to that. So that would be a licensed professional that would perform that service. From there, that ground control point, that data file would be given to the drone data collector, all right, and then you go and fly your mission. I don't see our kids or anything that we would do be involved in setting ground control points. That's a whole separate field. You know, the two are definitely merged, but right. You know, and I guess, David, what I'm saying is if I get an 11th grader that takes drone 1 and then he takes drone 2 in 12th grade, let's say he goes into the job market right after 12th grade to fly for a land surveyor. In that interview, he's going to be asked specific questions. You know, well, what kind of control points do you need to set before you can do your flight mission or your flight planning? And just basic vocabulary, I think, is, you know, you need it for fundamental mapping, but being able to talk intelligently with a licensed professional, you know, hoping to get a job right out of high school, I think it's very important.
Craig, I was talking to Dave at Atlas Engineering, and this guy, he goes out and actually does the missions. They were flying one the other day. It was a mile-long road highway, and he flew linear up and down the roadways. But he's like a survey technician. He is not the surveyor. And so he takes those with the ground points, and he gives all this to the surveyor. The surveyor checks it, and then he puts his stamp on it. But that survey technician is the one who's actually in the field freezing his bottom off, being able to collect all this data and then bring it back to the surveyor in a nice warm office. So there are jobs out there for those survey technicians to collect that, and they do have to set those ground points. And that's the question to Dr. Barber: how far are you going to go down that road, you know, to teach them that? Mario, let me ask you this on those ground control points. Instead of using a $10,000, $20,000 ground control unit, can you just simply use a GPS, handheld GPS, to mark that, to upload those?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, sir, because, like, for example, your phone, when you place it there, it can give you the exact coordinates in your phone. So maybe we don't need to buy those really high-end GPS receivers. We can probably use that, okay? Because, again, we want the students to learn the skill, okay? It's the skill that is important. So I'm going to share just like a few seconds, okay? I'm going to share this one here. If you see here on my map here, okay, the picture taken by the drone is not aligned to the base map, to the actual map. Do you see that, how off? Okay, so if we see this rotunda here, not off, is off to the actual rotunda map, okay, off to the picture taken by the drone, that is where ground control points comes in. So if we want just the kids to learn how to base mapping, yeah, we could maybe do this on a later on a basic time with the.
Let me put TC Furman on the spot. TC, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
In your work with NCDOT, how much have you been involved in doing any surveying out in the field? I know you're more on the education side, but have you been involved in any of the surveying?
Well, the only thing I've done with the surveying is I did speak. My technical knowledge, that's Tom Wall's area, but I did speak to the surveyors group, and they are a pretty militant bunch about not passing off drone work as survey material. They're pretty strong in their point. But I was doing like you guys, just encouraging them to work with them. And my suggestion would be, I guess, even though they're pretty stern, somebody's got to be trained to do it. So maybe there's some sort of simulation that you could do and be painfully obvious that it's not survey grade, and just go, hey, this is just for training purposes,
Right. Yeah, and the difference is that stamp. If it doesn't have the survey stamp on it, then we know it's not survey grade. And I'll tell you, TC, is that Atlas Engineering, they are doing it. I mean, their guys go out and they do the filming, and they bring it back to the surveyor, and he checks those ground control points, and he stamps it and never leaves the office. And so I think there's just that unknown, that fear by some surveyors and some surveyor groups that, hey, to get somebody's going to take our job, they can do it in 2 hours. It takes us something 2 weeks. We're charging for 2 weeks of work, and somebody's coming in and doing it in 2 hours. Crap, they're going to steal our lunch, and doing all this. So I think sometimes it's just education. And if those surveyors don't come along, then somebody is going to eat their lunch one day.
Yeah, they're definitely threatened. And it's an educational process, because, you can have drone technology technicians, like Wayne, you said earlier, with land survey technicians, and the land survey technician or the drone technology technician is not necessarily a licensed professional. Now, the drone technology or the drone technician is going to be licensed with the FAA.
Correct.
The survey technician typically probably would not be a licensed land surveyor. But
correct.
My point basically is just giving the student a fundamental knowledge of land survey, whether it's one unit or whatever, so they know what they're talking about when they go into a civil engineering firm or a land survey firm. They know what a control point is. They know what an RTK unit is. They know what a bearing is. They know where north is. Surprisingly enough, that's very difficult to teach. Which way is north? Teaching latitude and longitude to ninth graders, oh my gosh, you'll pull your hair out. But yeah, so it's just a fundamental knowledge that we're looking at. I don't think we're going to market ourselves as land surveyors. That's not what we're trying to do.
So as we go through this, my suggestion is that what I'm telling you is we pretty much have a clean slate. I mean, there is not a certification out there for mapping. You understand? I mean, there needs to be more. We had this conversation this morning with Garrett Scott from Duke Energy. There needs to be more certifications. He said he values if a person comes to him that has drone experience or just was applying for the drone job and has a certification, any certification, then he values that, because first of all, it shows initiative on the part of the individual, right? It says that they are more than just someone that got them a drone, passed the 107 and went out and did stuff. They actually did something beyond that, So as we create these certifications, that adds value to the employer because then he feels more comfortable, he or she feels more comfortable with hiring someone, taking a chance on somebody because they've proven they've got the initiative to do it. So, but
and
so
Garrett went to follow up.
a certification.
Dr. Barber, Garrett went to follow up. He says, and we get them is that we're going to onboard them. We're going to train them up and just go back through and retool them and make sure they didn't pick up any bad habits. But having that start, that toe hole is going to be very important. But they're going to go through and retrain them based on what they do, their policies, their procedures, et cetera. But it's not just seeing it for the first time. And that's going to be the advantage the student will have coming into that employer.
But
Yes,
isn't
sir.
that true? But isn't that true of all of our jobs? When you're first hired, you go to school and you learn fundamentals, but you don't know nothing. I mean, you know nothing about your job until you start that job. And then they say, okay, but you have but to Craig's point, you have a common vocabulary, right? You understand when they say this, you know what that means. So you might not work with it, but they can talk with you, and you have a general knowledge. They can take the general knowledge and now be very specific. I got an associate degree in electronics. I spent 15 years troubleshooting printed circuit boards. Okay, in my previous lifetime. Well, the deal was I didn't know anything about printed circuit boards really at all through my education until I got in the job place and they trained me how to do it. So the same is true, really, when you're drone flying. These people's going to learn to fly drones. They're going to learn this stuff, but they're not really going to know how to fly drones until they get into the marketplace and start flying drones. Then they're going to learn how to fly drones. Would you agree, Wayne?
Yes, sir. And the good thing with our program here is we are exposing the students to the fundamentals. Because when you go to a specific company, they have their specific drone. They have specific software. So they're very specific. So that is where we learn more. At least here we provide them the fundamentals.
I was involved in a conference call with Wings. Was it Wings? I've got it over here because the guy
with Tony.
Yeah, is it Wings I was with?
Yes.
Yeah, Wings, and the guy there said that they're hiring a lot of drone operators, and they're going to be hiring a lot more. They don't have any in North Carolina yet, or they'd already be on our board. Let me tell you, because they're looking for hiring people. One of the problems they're having is when they hire these drone operators, they leave. They don't stay long. And the reason why they're not, because some of them come in there, they're flying autonomously. You understand? They're not flying the stick. They may have 10 drones that they're flying autonomously. You see, they go set them up and hit the button and then walk away because it goes from this point to that point. And a lot of people want to play with the stick. You understand? And we think that was what they're discussing. That in the future, you could have one drone pilot. Again, you're going to have, let's face it, the 107 certification, it's going to change in the next few years. It's going to change. They're going to incorporate beyond visual line sight requirements in there because they give waivers to everybody. So they're going to incorporate that in there. They're going to have a flying over people because of the safety of equipment and stuff. They're just going to make it a requirement that you have to know the law before you do it. So, I mean, the point is, our job is to prepare them to put that hand on that lower rung of the ladder, right? And so when it comes to mapping, get back to our point because the time's about up. When we get back to mapping, our objective is to teach them the basic fundamentals, not anything advanced. We have no intention of teaching advanced. If we want to do an advanced drone class, we'll add another course. And if there's a demand for an advanced mapping class for drones and the school system wants to do it, I don't think there'll ever be enough to do a statewide program in it. I just don't think so because you got to be 107 certified pilots. And let's face it, we're struggling to get enough to keep our level 2 classes going because it's not an easy task. So I don't see that happening, but you could do local course options. You could use advanced studies if you wanted to. So there's avenues to do that. But anyway, the point is, we need to identify and maybe Wayne, we can get our teachers to send out some surveys of what are you looking for. And yes, I agree with summer camp. It's a great idea too, Wayne. What are you looking for when we're looking at mapping? What do we think is the basic fundamentals that everyone needs to know? You know, this is what you have to know. Not the stuff that's nice to know, not the stuff at this level up here, but you have to know those things. And that's what we're looking for in our course is the fundamentals, because from there, yeah, anything advanced, anything specific to this industry or specific to that industry, they're going to learn when they go to that industry, right? I mean,
and that might be a good question to the NC DAC, high school DAC.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep.
Okay.
Mario, outstanding, sir. Did a great job.
So too, Mario, I appreciate it. I think it's been great. We're going to, I'll have to go back through. I had something distract me through one point when you were talking about some of the stuff, and I said, crap, I couldn't find where I was at. If I missed a couple of steps, because you're going through some of that stuff pretty quick, and my mind don't work quite that fast. So I'm going to go back to this video and slow it down and pause and go through the examples. And I would recommend that to all of you. You have Drone2Map. If you don't, let us know. We'll try to make sure you get it for you. But go through this sample, the exact thing that Mario did, and when you see what he did and the image that he had, you should be able to repeat it, right? So go through it and repeat it. If you have a question, you can always ask Mario. Don't ask me, but you can ask Mario or Wayne, and Wayne can ask Mario. If you need something though, but I would recommend you do that. We will be developing some activities around mapping because we need to have some type of a curriculum guide that we produce. That has to be produced by March the 15th, by the way. So on March the 15th, we have to have our curriculum guide done for our ID12. So we'll get that done. But it's 9:01. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to let Wayne and Mario finish it up. But thank you very much. I will be publishing this, and you'll be able to go through it yourself. Hopefully it'll be out first thing in the morning. But thank you guys for being here.
Thank you everyone for coming. Our special guest TC Freeman from NCDOT. Thanks for coming. Mario, it's yours.
And thank you so much for this opportunity. And just email me if you have questions about the software or doing autonomous flying.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Nice to see you guys.
I have a question that